Turn one soul ring.
Nice and buttery smooth.
Oh yeah, I gotta clear my throat before we get started. I don't want any of that.
Excuse me, just let me clear my throat directly into the microphone.
And welcome to the show, everybody. This is Turn One Soul Ring. I'm Kevin.
Hey, I'm Eric.
And I'm Riley.
And today on the show, we're going to be dexplaining Riley's Koll the Forgemaster Commander deck, or as Riley's titled it, Koll Combos. Koll?
I've been calling him Koll.
I think it's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to start off, as we always do, with Koll's backstory, and then we'll move on to the deck categories, and we'll wrap things up today with our honorable mentions section. But before we get to any of that, Eric, how can listeners get in touch with us?
You can find us over on Instagram at Turn One Soul Ring, the podcast. You can also get a hold of us directly. We have an email, turnonsoulring@gmail.com. We actually throw everything up onto YouTube as well, so you can type in Turn One Soul Ring, the podcast, to find us the easiest. And if you like what we do here a lot, you're really enjoying the show, we have a Patreon page, so please go check out that Patreon page. It's patreon.com/turnonesoulring.
Okay, so let's read this legendary creature. It is Koll the Forgemaster. He is a red and a white for a legendary dwarf warrior, 2/2. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return it to its owner's hand. Creature tokens you control that are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1.
His stats are pretty good as dwarfs go also, by the way.
Yeah, this is one of the more premium statted dwarfs.
As we saw with the previous Dexplained episode.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So exactly, we do have another dwarf commander on our hands today, and in addition to being a dwarf, Koll was born in Axgard, and he lived during the Mending era, which started about 250 years after the Phyrexian invasion of Dominaria. Just to put things into perspective for you. Anyways, Koll was a talented smith with the finest materials in the realm and at his disposal, but wouldn't you know it, he was never really satisfied with the quality of those materials. You know, like it's the old grass is always greener situation.
For sure.
So because of this, he would constantly leave the safety of his city in search of more satisfactory materials to turn into weapons. On one particularly dangerous foray, Koll was attacked by Serolf. That's the big bad wolf character of Kaldheim, the Realm Eater, I believe.
Yeah.
The wolf was about to kill Koll when the god Halvar intervened and saved his life. And after Halvar had bested the beast, Koll noticed a shining chunk of tyrite where the beast fell and immediately lunged to grab it. Halvar wasn't fast enough to stop the dwarf, and when his hand touched the metal, it transformed into tyrite itself. So didn't they do that in like the third Aladdin movie? Did you guys see that where they were going to get a hand, but if you touch the hand, it turned it to gold. But I think in that scenario, if like you touch the hand, your whole body would turn to gold. Anyways, obviously you guys don't remember that, but there have been a lot of Disney movies on it in my house lately, and I think that's like the least watched of the trilogy.
Oh, definitely.
So anyways, Koll now had a metal hand, a hand made of tyrite, and no big deal, but he was still sort of upset and sort of shocked at losing his hand in a sense. But when he got back to work, he quickly discovered that his new hand was able to handle the godly metal safely. So I guess if you touch it with an appendage, it just affects that appendage. It doesn't, I guess it stops after it gets to a certain point on his arm. And even in the art, you can see how he has that like shiny like hand and forearm that's the same.
His like right hand.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other one, he's got a glove on it. So obviously you can just wear gloves. It's not that big of a deal, but
safety first, kids.
Of course. He's not even wearing goggles. I mean, he really wants to be safe. So as a gesture of gratitude, Koll promised he would forge the finest blade the realms had ever seen as a gift for Halvar. He worked for days until he finally emerged from his forge with a blade so sharp it could cut a path between realms, or it could cut through the cosmos. The source material I read said that, and it was the Sword of the Realms, what Koll had forged, the flip side of the Halvar card. And in case you don't know, I didn't. Call Time is made up of 10 realms that are like mini planes that move around the world tree like planets around a primary. So it sounds like the sword could quasi plane shift if you cut into another realm and just like hopped across. That's sort of how I'm picturing it. Anyways, Koll's work drew the attention of Tybalt, who, disguised as Valky, tried to persuade the dwarf to give him the sword. Koll refused to give it to him, and Tybalt killed Koll and took the sword for himself. And you can see a depiction of this last part on the card, the Trickster God's heist from Call Time. So that's it. He's dead.
Wow. Damn, Koll dies.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Well, wow.
I guess I'm sure Halvar eventually gets the sword in the storyline. I didn't get that far because it is the flip side of his card, so he must get it. But that's kind of it.
Okay.
Dang.
Yeah, I mean, Halvar's card is kind of depicting him using the sword, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
He must have gotten it.
And then there is also the saga forging the Tyrite sword.
Mm-hmm.
To like tie in with all of the
exactly
the lore there.
Yeah.
So cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's get to the first category here. Remember that you can follow along with us by using the link at the top of the show notes. That'll take you to this deck list on Deckstats. So we're going to start off with redundancy. And we have one card in this category. It's Halvar, God of Battle. And on the flip side, it's Sword of the Realms. Sword of the Realms. So the redundancy here is the Sword of the Realms side, if I'm not mistaken. The equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has vigilance. Doesn't matter so much, but whenever equipped creature dies, return it to its owner's hand. That's what we want to be doing.
Yeah, so the redundancy comes in, and we'll see in a few categories here, but if you have a way to equip the sword for free and another piece of equipment, well, I guess you wouldn't necessarily need another piece of equipment because this could just loop by itself. But either way, some way to sacrifice the creature, then you could start looping some death triggers or enter the battlefield triggers.
Yeah, I hope nobody has a Hushbringer in their deck when they're playing against this deck. That's not going to be good for you.
There's a couple ways around it, but it would cause a bit of a headache.
So the next category we have here is ramp. We have Arcane Signet, Dockside Extortionist, Goldvein Pick, Impulsive Pilferer, Soul Ring, and Solemn Simulacrum. And Solemn actually kind of bridges the gap between this category and the next category because when he dies, you get to draw a card. So it's not card advantage, but
true.
It is card. After you do it a few times, it becomes card advantage.
Honestly, just like obviously later we're going to see what the deck really, really does with the combos and stuff. And I think Solemn is a real gas piece here for ramp and also like drawing cards as well. So I think it's a really... Sometimes you're like, oh, I just jam Solemn in the deck because, but Solemn actually really fits in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah, it's going to do a lot of work.
Yeah, and so does a card like Impulsive Pilferer. Like this, I kind of slid into the ramp category, but really, like this is a nice looper as well because, so Impulsive Pilferer is red for a 1/1 Goblin Pirate. It says whenever Impulsive Pilferer dies, create a treasure token, and it has Encore for 3 and a red. I don't think the Encore is going to come up too often, but basically what will happen when he dies, you can loop him with Koll if he was equipped, and then replay him using that treasure. So you're basically neutral on mana there if you're able to loop him with a 0 equip piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And I also like how we have another new card in here with the Goldvein Pick for 2 of anything. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token, and it just costs 1 to equip. Too bad it just doesn't deal damage in general, but still. Cool little addition.
Yeah. So the next category we have here is card advantage. I sort of already spoiled it, but it is Heirloom Blade, Skull Clamp, SRAM Senior Edificer, Stonehaven Outfitter, Thraben Inspector, and Togo Goblin Weaponsmith. Remember this from our Commander Legends set review. And this may prove me to be ignorant, but how are you getting card advantage with Togo there, Rouse?
I guess I was trying to stretch the boundaries here. I figured the more equipment the more equipment I was generating off of my lands, the more virtual card advantage I had. But
yeah, no, that makes sense. That is a kind of card advantage.
Yeah.
The more permanents you have on board.
Yeah, and things like Thraben Inspector, like a lone Thraben Inspector is not going to be like true card advantage, but of course, if I'm able to get a loop going, it does create a bit of card advantage. And same thing with like Heirloom Blade as well. And Heirloom Blade is one that you don't see too often, but it's 3 mana for an equipment. Equipped creature gets +3/+1, and whenever an equipped creature this equipped creature dies, you may reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with it. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So just a way to, sacrifice this equipped creature to get another creature, and with Koll on the battlefield, get the sacrifice creature back to your hand. So some hoops to jump through for some card advantage there.
Yeah, and Stonehaven Outfitter is one of my favorite cards. I used to run it in the original iteration of my SRAM deck back when it was helmed by Kemba Ka Regent. And it's anyway, I'll read it. It's 1 and a white for a 2/2 core artificer ally. Equipped creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever an equipped creature you control dies, draw a card. This is just perfect in this deck with Koll on the battlefield and a sack outlet, and equipment, and all the good stuff that this deck wants to do. This is going to draw you a ton of cards.
Yeah, super solid piece.
Okay, so let's move on to the next category here. It is protection. We have Benevolent Bodyguard, Hope of Jiriper, Selfless Savior, and Selfless Spirit. I really like how on theme this category is. This deck is all about creatures dying, and that's what you have in this category. And what's great is that you can reuse them. You don't want to be throwing in one-shot spells in here. You want creatures with death triggers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, also the more interesting one is going to be the Hope of Jiriper, because it's one of anything for a 1/1 Thopter with flying. And you can sacrifice Hope of Jiriper until your next turn. Target player who was dealt combat damage by Hope of Jiriper this turn can't cast non-creature spells. So you're basically like, if this player has more spells to sling or something like that on your turn, they may mess with you. You can hit them with the Hope and then sacrifice it to like turn off. All they can do is cast permanents. Or creatures, I should say. Sorry, not even. You can't do enchantments or anything either. Sorry, just creatures.
Yeah, it's a nice way to set up the combo, like the turn that I want to go off as well. Like if there's a blue player at the table and I'm worried about a counter spell and I have a Hope of Jiriper ready to attack on the battlefield, maybe I can swing in and hit them, sacrifice it to make sure they can't counter. Then play Koll and play whatever other combo piece I need to go off that turn. So it's just a way to I could loop it. Like it would be a slow loop, of course, because you'd have to attack and hit the player this turn with Hope of Jiriper. But every turn I could do that just to shut off one person's game plan to hopefully build an advantage that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very, very powerful card in that regard. Next category we have here is combo enablers. We have Auric Steel Shaper, Bergi, God of Storytelling. That's a new flip card. The other side is Heartfell, Horn of Bounty. Lightning Greaves, Pure Steel Paladin, Sigh of the Shinobi, Shuko, and Umbral Mantle. It's a great combo piece in many decks.
Definitely to start off, I love Pure Steel Paladin is always just like such a house in equipped decks. And then so people who don't know what the Pure Steel Paladin is, 2 white for a 2/2 knight. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you get to draw cards. We got card advantage going on. But then it also has Metalcraft, so equipment you control equips 0 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. Obviously, we are going off of equipment for our combos and stuff, so this is, again, one of those pieces that's really nice to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, yeah, exactly. Just being able to cast a creature and just repeatedly equip and get that Koll value that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that equip 0 is key for this deck, because, on the turn that I'm going off, I need to be able to create an infinite loop, right? So I need a way to make sure that I can equip a creature, and then that way when the creature dies, it comes back to my hand instead of going to the graveyard. Yeah. So what Auriok Steel Shaper and Burgi are doing as well is when I am going through that loop, it's widening that amount of equipment that I have available to me. Like, for example, turning what we looked at before, like Skull Clamp, or in the ramp category, Goldvein Pick, turns those essentially into equip 0s as well. So they help to just kind of widen the gap of available equipment that I can use to form a loop.
Yeah, and that's what's so great about like cards like Sigh of the Shinobi. It's 1 mana for an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach Sigh of the Shinobi to it, and the equip cost is 2. That if you have a loop going and you can sacrifice a creature and recast it, let's say like a 0-cost creature, for example, you can just keep attaching Sigh of the Shinobi to it when it enters the battlefield, and from that perspective, it almost does have a 0 equip cost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So next up, we have loopers. We have Cathodian, Fireblade Charger, Memnite, Mere Moon Vessel, Ornithopter, Phyrexian Walker, Priest of Urabrask, Rogar, son of Rogue, Skirk Prospector. If they ever want, this is off topic, but if they ever wanted to do a sequel to the movie Looper, they could call it Loopers. I think that would be a good name. I always like sequel titles more when they don't just call it like Star Wars 2.
Yeah.
It's just kind of uninspired. But anyways, I digress.
There's definitely a couple of interesting cards in here. I remember playing with Cathodian before. 3 of anything, just for a 3/3 construct, but when it dies, you get 3 mana. So obviously, when we sacrifice it, that's generating a lot of mana. But also, it loops by itself because it costs 3, and you gain 3 when you kill it. So it's just a nice little loop there. Same thing with the Mere Moon Vessel. When it dies, you get a 1 generic mana, and it just costs 1 for a 1/1 mirror, so that it infinitely loops by itself as well. I didn't know Mere Moon Vessel was a card.
I also did not know this card existed.
Yeah.
And then obviously we have all of the good 0 mana stuff like Memnites and Ornithopters, which are very popular. Probably the lesser known is the Phyrexian Walker.
Yeah, I discovered it when I built my Teshar Eggs combo deck.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. With Teshar, I discovered it because I was looking for anything that could loop with itself, and this was definitely in that category.
Oh yeah. I used to run Cathodian in my my mono red Duretti artifacts deck, and I wasn't even breaking it. I was just I'd just recur it as you do and sacrifice it and get the mana. But even when you're playing with it fairly, it's a fantastic card.
Yeah, for sure.
And I wanted to ask about the Fireblade Charger. It's 1 red for a 1/1 Goblin Warrior. As long as it is equipped, it has haste. That's nice. And when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So you have this in this section, and the next section is sack outlets. So we want to be sacrificing this so we can put damage wherever it needs to go. But I guess, is there a way to repeatedly sacrifice this, put it back to your hand, cast it again? Because it does cost 1 mana.
I guess this is probably more in line with finishers, now that I think about it. Like, it's not quite a replaceable looper. It requires a little bit more setup than the others. But
a little bit.
I guess I stuck it in here because it is a creature that I'm looking to kill off and then loop back with. But if we have like
that makes sense.
If we have like a Burgie or what is the other Phyrexian Altar, if we're you have a sack outlet with Burgie and recasting with Burgie, we're getting a red to recast Fireblade Charger, or if we're sacrificing using Phyrexian Altar to generate a red, then we can loop it that way. So
yeah, exactly.
Probably a little bit more in line with a finisher than a looper, but I don't know. There's so many
you are looping
sections.
It for sure.
There's so many sections that kind of have an overlap here.
Yeah. Well, that happens, because you really don't want to have that many sections. Like I struggle with that too, and then you just end up having a section just called Blood Moon. Another card I do want to mention in this category specifically is Priest of Urabrask. It's very similar to Cathodian in that it can loop itself. It's 2 and a red for a 2/1 human cleric, and when it enters the battlefield, you add 3 red to your mana pool. So this is another card I really haven't seen that much. I did know about it, but it's just perfect in this category. Just I think you're really gonna get some gross combos going with this deck, and that's what I love to see.
That's what I'm looking for.
So the next category we have here is sack outlets. I briefly mentioned it. We have Arcbound Ravager, Ashnod's Altar, Atog, Demon Male Halberg. All right. Grafted Wargear, Krark Clan Ironworks, Mortar Pod, Phyrexian Altar, and Piston Sledge. And I do pre-read these lists, so I must just be.
It's not something that you say out loud every day,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Here, a card you don't see too often is Atog. It's 1 and a red for a 1/2 Atog. Sacrifice an artifact. Atog gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Just wanted to mention it. Like this is a reprint, and like Atogs are a creature type. There's like a 5-color Atog that you can use as a commander. I don't think it's that reliable as a commander deck, but this is definitely a fantastic card in this deck. You always want to have, if you're going to have sacrifice outlets, and I think you always should in most decks, not always, but often, assuming they can work with the theme. But what you really want to see is that just sacrifice a blank, no cost, nothing like that. You just, a free sacrifice outlet is what I refer to as cards like this. Of course, they have a casting cost, but to activate them costs no mana.
Mm-hmm.
I also like these two. I like these two equipments that are like really funny workarounds as well. Because you do have the Demon Male Halberg and the Piston Sledge, and the cost to equip them is to sacrifice a creature.
Yeah, I really like that too.
Yeah, it's not something that you usually see, but definitely we're going to have Koll in the battlefield. You can sacrifice a creature to equip that to that and do the loop with whatever creature you're sacrificing. So,
yeah, they really work fantastically in this deck, and it's kind of it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I really like these.
Yeah, I think the only thing you need to consider is the way you have to make the loop work with these equipments is even though it's a sacrifice outlet and an equipment in one, you need 2 loopers to make it work properly.
Like you need to equip the artifact to something.
Well,
right?
you could equip the creature that's currently equipped, but since that creature is dying as the sacrifice cost, it's going to be unequipped, and then when you replay that creature, it's not going to be equipped to anything, so you'd have to sacrifice something to equip it to that creature. So that's why it's going to work best if you have 2 loopers, so you can sacrifice the one it's currently attached to move it to the other creature, and then just start looping it that way.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Atog, like, this is another one that kind of bleeds over into other categories, because this could easily finish somebody off as well. Like, if you get a big enough Atog, definitely. You can just one-shot somebody.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is all this sacrificing and sack fodder is really making me want to dust off the old Mikaeus deck.
Yeah. Like a comment on Grafted Wargear. This one I considered more of a sack outlet rather than that of an equip 0. equipment just because it acts more like a sack outlet than an actual equipment that's going to be comboing with Koll. It's
Right.
So 3 generic mana for an equipment with equip 0 gives equipped creature +3/+2, and when it becomes unattached from a permanent, sacrifice that permanent. So when that sacrifice trigger goes on the stack, as you've moved it off of that creature, it's going to be sacrificed at that point. So it's not going to be seen as being equipped, so it would die and it wouldn't come back to your hand. So you'd have to use it in combination with another piece of equipment to make sure that you're using the Grafted Wargear more as a sacrifice outlet than an actual piece of equipment.
Yeah, no, good point there. Next up, we have finishers. We have Altar of Dementia, Blasting Station, Dwarven Hammer, Goblin Bombardment, Impact Tremors, Reckless Fireweaver, and Walking Ballista. So this is where all the sacrificing comes is going to kill your opponents. One of my all-time favorite cards is Impact Tremors. It's 1 in a red for an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. I've won a ton of games with this card. Even like I even had this in like my old mono red Krenko deck, because you start tapping Krenko, your goblins are just multiplying and people just die.
Oh yeah,
it's great for 1 in a red.
Yeah, and then obviously this is where we're seeing all the payoffs with our loopers and stuff. So being able to infinitely sack things with the loopers, then you just kind of kill people. It's like Altar of Dementia, which is 2 of anything for an artifact. You sacrifice a creature, target player mills cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power, and then we're just able to keep looping that. And it's nice that obviously the loop we're working with has us equipping the creature, because even in cases like Ornithopter, to get it looped back, it's going to have some power from one of the other artifacts attached to it, so then it will still work with the Altar of Dementia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Blasting Station, another great card that's perfect. It's 3 mana for an artifact. Tap, sacrifice a creature. Blasting Station deals 1 damage to any target, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield whenever a creature enters the battlefield, not even under your control, you may untap Blasting Station. So this also works as a sacrifice outlet. But this card has won me many games with my Mikaeus deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good card. One that kind of sticks out, Dwarven Hammer. Not really. Not really.
When I first saw this here, I was like, "What?"
So this is kind of for the memes, but okay. So Dwarven Hammer is 2 in a red for an equipment. Has equip 3. Equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has trample, but it has this enter the battlefield trigger that you can pay 2 and create a 2/1 dwarf and attach it to it. Yeah, the only reason this is in the finishers is because sometimes you just have to do it the old-fashioned way and beat people over the head with creatures equipped with big hammers.
Yeah, fair enough. like old Atog over there.
Yeah,
like equip it to the Atog.
There you go.
One-shot somebody.
So the next category we have here is tutors. We have Enlightened Tutor, Goblin Engineer, Goblin Matron, Imperial Recruiter, Open the Armory, Ranger of Eos, Ranger Captain of Eos, Recruiter of the Guard, Scrapyard, Recombiner, Steel Shaper's Gift, and Stoneforge Mystic. Whew, some power here.
Yeah.
I think this category, I really don't have anything to say about this category other than that it seems like perfect for these colors. I mean, you have everything besides Gamble, and I don't really like to run Gamble because it's you might end up feeling bad.
Yeah, like if you don't need to run Gamble, we have like 11. Yeah, you have 11 tutors in here. I don't think you need Gamble.
I don't think you need Gamble. I agree.
Yeah, I think I have enough redundancy in the tutor section.
I think so. Yeah, basically the tutor section is really well set up to grab like anything you need out of the deck. So it's just like it's super solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what you want in a combo focused deck. Is you do want an abundance of tutors. At least I do.
No, for sure.
So the next category we have here is recursion. we have Goblin Welder, Mere Retriever, and Salvage Scout. So a lot like Protection, Riley, you do have, again, very on theme where we're sacrificing creatures. Well, where we have creatures with die effects, and we can just reuse them, and that's, again, there's just a ton of value in this deck.
All the value.
All the value.
Yeah, look at all the game actions you're taking.
Guys, check out all these game actions.
Yeah, just let me build my board, please. We the three of us had the opportunity to play some Paper Magic, which I don't think we had done since probably October, maybe November.
Yeah.
So we had a good time, needless to say. We just wanted to have a lot of game actions and not kill each other. That's sort of how much we missed playing Paper Magic.
Yeah.
There were game actions.
Yeah. I think I ended up winning 2 rounds, and both of them just happened to be storm wins. The second one wasn't intentional.
Riley, we know you're the storm player.
What just happened? Yeah.
What suggests that I like combos?
Yeah, this is a combo-friendly podcast. But yeah, what do you guys have anything you want to point out about this particular category before we move on to the last one here?
No, just
like
like
pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
but,
just like tutors, like it's just adding some level of redundancy, just in case a piece is removed, you have a way or an opportunity of getting it back.
Mm-hmm. Of course. In addition to having an affinity for combos, Riley also likes the graveyard. And not that I don't like the graveyard. I like the graveyard too. It's just I feel like a lot of games that we play, I find myself sitting there thinking, well, I'm watching Riley take a lot of game actions, that I should put more graveyard hate in my deck. And I just never get around to it. It's the damnedest thing. But it's just one of those things.
Well, because like the graveyard is definitely a tool to be used, and so it's good to have that graveyard hate. I mean, you always have your favorite there, Kevin, right?
I do, the scavenger grounds.
Yeah.
I do pop that into. I do try to pop that into every deck, and it can go in every deck. So check it out. All right, so let's move on to lands here. We have 36 of them. We have Ancient Den, Ancient Tomb, Arid Mesa, Axguard Armory, Battlefield Forge, Command Tower, Darksteel Citadel, Fabled Passage, Glimmer Void, Great Furnace, Hall of Helioid's Generosity, Inventor's Fair, 9 Mountains, Needle Verge Pathway, flip side being Pillar Verge Pathway, 9 Plains, Rugged Prairie, Sacred Foundry, Spire of Industry, Sunbaked Canyon, and Wasteland.
Wasteland, baby.
Wasteland, baby.
I do like. I mean, I think this. Again, much like the tutor section, the category. This looks great. 18 basics. I like that. I also like the inclusion of the new Axguard Armory.
Heck yeah.
As just an additional tutor effect. It's one of the lands from the uncommon land cycle from Kaldheim. It enters the battlefield tapped. It taps for a white, and you can pay 1 red, white, tap, sacrifice it, search your library for an aura card or an equipment card, reveal wow, okay. Yeah. Reveal them and put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. That's pretty good. I didn't even realize it was and or.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yes, if you are running
stuff.
auras as well, it's some really good value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think I do have an aura in here, but I'm sure
No.
you could probably slide something in here if you wanted some form of interaction. Put an aura in here just to be able to get some gravy with that Axguard Armory.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm. Well, there must be some. I mean, no, that's green. I keep thinking of green cards. But something you could cast from the graveyard. Once it goes to the graveyard or goes back to your hand. No, that's green. Okay, I got nothing.
There is. I can't remember. There's a white one that you can activate in the graveyard and it brings back. Either an enchantment or an artifact. I can't remember which one.
Oh, bingo! Yeah, put that
it's
one
an
in.
equipment or an aura, and I think you're thinking of Spectral Steel.
Yes. Also the the Hall of Heliod's Generosity is pretty sweet. It's a legendary land that taps for generic. You can pay 1 and a white to tap it and put target enchantment card from your graveyard on top of your library.
Yeah, we've gotten one of these for not each color, but we have this for white. We have what is it, Volrath Stronghold for black, and then we have Academy Ruins for blue. Is there a land like this for red and green that sort of do something that those colors are kind of known for doing? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, not
maybe
yet.
Maybe we will. Hey, Modern Horizons 2 is coming up, so
There you
There you
go.
go.
something to look forward to.
I also really liked the Sunbaked Canyon because it is a land. You'd have to pay life to tap it no matter what. It taps for red or white. But then you can pay 1 and tap it to sacrifice it and draw cards. So if you're in the spot where you need some card draw, the Sunbaked Canyon you can just get rid of and draw another card.
Yeah, and it is Boros, so he's probably going to get into that spot a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're in a situation where like you have one of your finishers on the board and somebody's removed it before you can do anything about it, if you do have the lands out, you can Hall of Heliod's to get like Goblin Bombardment back on top of your deck, and then Sunbaked Canyon to draw it again, and then keep going on your turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and I guess like the CMC or the average CMC for the deck is 2.02. So
that's nice.
I guess lands aren't critical.
No. So yeah,
No,
most
really.
times you can probably end up getting rid of that Sunbaked Canyon later just to draw another card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it looks good. I always like to see Ancient Tomb, one of my all-time favorite lands.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like you got everything. Looks like you got the fixing. It looks good. So I think, and you did mention the average CMC, which is very nice, 2.02. That's just. I hope you're drawing a lot of cards because you're gonna be going through them. That's for sure. So let's move on to the honorable mention segment of today's show. This is where Eric and I share with Riley some cards that might make good additions to this already pretty solid deck, it seems. And even the price of the deck isn't outrageous, and you can always lessen the price of decks by taking out some cards, like Arid Mace is more of a pricier card. It's like $35.
Yeah.
Ancient Tomb is, more of a pricier card. Just some cards in the land base alone could be taken out and it would reduce the cost of the deck a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even like Wasteland's
Yeah,
a little bit up
that's
there
all-
too. You probably nix like over $100 out of the land section alone.
Yeah. But anyways, let's move on to the honorable mentions here. So we'll also do this in category order. So we'll start with redundancy. I was able to find one card that would be an option. Let me just pull it up here. It's Death Render. So it's 4 mana for an equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. Whenever equipped creature dies, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield and attach Death Render to it, and the equip cost is 2. So I'm not loving the converted mana cost of this card. It's because this deck has a very low average CMC, and a few of the cards I found were like in the 4 and 5 mana slot, and I thought that's probably why, Riley, you didn't put them in the deck. But you would need a second creature to get this going, and a sack outlet, and of course Koll on the battlefield, so it would bounce back to your hand when it died. But I'm not sure if this is necessarily redundancy or more of like a combo enabler.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's something sort of in the same vein as like Sigh of the Shinobi, where it immediately equips itself to a creature that comes into play.
Yeah.
But it also does. With Koll, it'll bounce it back to your hand. So yeah, that's my redundancy. I don't have anything else in this category. Do you have something for redundancy, Eric?
Nope.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like that idea because it does help you, from the sounds of it, loop creatures that would otherwise not be able to loop, like without a large amount of mana. So like
Yeah.
you could loop some of your bulkier creatures like your Stoneforge Mystics and folks that, like don't traditionally loop well.
Yeah, or like a Solemn. It's like
Yeah.
4 mana. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like they have cast triggers. It's all well, like like Solemn and Stoneforge are enter the battlefield effects.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's not like you're losing out on that either. So yeah. So let's move on to ramp. What have you got for us, Eric?
I have a little bit of a pet card. You can get some explosive turns out with it. This is the Treasonous Ogre. So it's 3 of anything in a red, so it is 4 CMC, a little bit higher than what the deck is wanting. It has Dethrone, whatever. You can pay 3 life to add a red mana to your mana pool.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if we do have some other things, if we want to like blast out our hand, maybe we can like start comboing earlier because we have so much extra mana. If you're able just to get to that combo quicker, losing some life is just kind of like whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, something to think about for a lot of like red, Boros, Rakdos decks. I run a copy of this in Zancha, and it can get you there. So yeah, but yeah, I do agree that it's a little hefty on the CMC, but definitely a solid card. So I thought I think I don't know if I mentioned this, but I feel like I've been saying it a lot about this deck. But the ramp package is very on theme overall, and so I kind of wanted to stick with that. I do think the ramp package is a little light, but again, the CMC is very low, so I think and the land count is very healthy, so I think you're going to be able to get away with 6 6 cards, and there are other cards in the list that do produce mana, right? We talked about how categories don't really effectively encapsulate all the cards in them, and we'd have to like have cross-reference category. It would almost be better if we did it like a Venn diagram. I think that would work better.
Yeah.
But it would have to be multiple Venn diagrams, and the show would get very, very complicated.
You're
so
getting
we're not
complicated
going
with
to
this.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, trying to stay on theme, I thought Explorer Scope could be cool. Let me just pull it. I'll just read it here. It's 1 mana for an equipment. Whenever equipped creature attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped, and the equip cost is 1. So it's strictly ramp potentially. It's not going to get you, it's not going to get you any kind of, it's not like when this creature dies. So it's not really doing that kind of thing. It does have the 1 equip cost, which is nice. But, there are 36 lands on the deck, so 36% of the time, you're going to get a land every one of those times, right?
You're never going to whiff.
60% of the time, it works every time.
Every time.
But I've found great success with this card in SRAM. Of course, that's a different deck, different strategy. But just a cheap equipment, both in financial value and mana cost.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's all I had for ramp.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. It's pretty good. Riley, you're making our job very difficult this particular episode.
This is a very specific tuned combo deck, so
it was almost like having to search Gatherer for all the different dwarfs that have ever been printed. And it turns out Eric had already found all the good ones. So let's move on to card advantage.
So over here we got Wyleth, Soul of Steel. So this is new Commander Legends. You pay 1 of anything and then a red and a white for a 2/2. It has trample. Whenever Wyleth attacks, draw a card for each aura and equipment attached to it. So it's a little bit slower on the card advantage, doesn't do anything right away. But then if we have a couple of equipments out there, you can actually end up drawing like some, cards off of Wyleth himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and sometimes you can be in situations like that where you need to dig.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah,
and then,
I
really like it as well because Togo is in the deck. So maybe we'll have like a bunch of rocks You just pull those rocks, draw like 4 cards.
Live in the Togo dream.
Yeah, now that.
Oh man.
Yeah, right.
That is card advantage, like Togo battle cruiser magic.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh man, I love Togo. Togo's so great.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I actually didn't find anything for this category. Do you have?
That was the only one.
Okay, so let's move on to protection here. So I went off theme a little bit, but like any good combo deck without access to blue, you'll need some kind of counter magic. So I think a couple of solid protection spells are Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast, just to, just 1 mana, protect the combo. I know these have really gotten me out of some jams in my Atla Palani combo deck, and I think they're just great when you don't have access to blue. But like I said, when we were going through the categories originally, I really like what you have here because you can reuse them.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And Gearper solves all those problems that I just outlined anyways.
Yeah, I think Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast were cards that I had in the back of my mind, and I think it's really, if you're playing in a group that's very counterspell heavy, like that's obviously when a card like Red Elemental Blast or Pyroblast gets a lot better. So it can be really meta dependent, but overall I think those cards are really strong, especially if you're trying to protect a combo.
Yeah. In the same vein as protecting the combo, I think Grand Abolisher is a potential for this this deck. So it's Grand. Have you seen the price of this card lately? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's 2 white for a 2/2 human cleric. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. So, it just protects what you're doing. This is bringing another card to mind that I used to run in my Narset deck. Narset. Did I spell it wrong?
Narf.
I must have. Yeah.
Well, while we're talking about the Grand Abolisher, there's also an equipment that does what Grand Abolisher does.
Yeah.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah, so there's a card called Conqueror's Flail. It's 2 of anything. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control. As long as Conqueror's Flail is attached to a creature, your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. The equip cost is 2.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's very nice.
It's on theme.
Theme.
that is on theme. See, mine wasn't on theme, so Eric gets the point this time.
No, I still think Grand Abolisher is a solid card. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The card I thought of was Defense Grid. So it's a 2 mana for an artifact. During each player's turn, each other player's spells cost 3 more to play. But otherwise this is just a do nothing artifact, so I probably wouldn't recommend putting it in this deck. Same thing with similar to what's that other one? Price of Glory, that enchantment that it's like if lands. Let me just pull it up here.
Yeah, if you tap lands on your opponent's turn, you have to sacrifice them.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think it is important to mention that a lot of the time you're going to be comboing off on one of your main phases because you can only equip at instant speed, and much like Defense Grid, which is kind of a do nothing artifact, I don't think you want to run something like Leon and Shikari, which would allow you to equip at instant speed. So, cards like this that affect what your opponents can do during your turn are great cards, but it's like where would you make cuts for them when they really don't do anything? You want to be taking game actions.
Exactly. Show me your game actions.
Yeah. That's gonna be a new sub game in the league where we have to the player with the most game actions. Trevor's gonna love it.
Yeah. Each person has to record it individually.
Yeah, it's gonna make the games take way longer. I think it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So those were my honorable mentions for protection.
I also have a really quick one for protection, which is boring. There's that new false swipe card. If you are in a kind of meta where you do have people kind of going after your permanents, False Swipe is always a card to keep in the back of your mind.
What is false swipe?
If you have your commander, you can cast it for free. You can change the target spell.
Oh, yes, from the Ikoria commander.
Yeah.
One of those. Yeah, oh, great card. Great card. Never gotten to cast it, but it seems very good.
What I find really interesting, though, is the card Fanatical Devotion. So this is an enchantment for 2 of anything and a white, and it reads, sacrifice a creature, regenerate target creature.
Oh, yeah.
So it's it's a sack outlet and some protection as well.
Protection. That's solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice. Nemesis. Great set. Okay, let's move on to combo enablers. So I'm not sure if this card goes in this category or maybe it goes into ramp, but I'm thinking of Helm of Awakening. It's 2 mana for an artifact. Spells cost 1 less to cast, 1 less generic mana to cast. So it's a global effect, and it can make players feel leery to put these cards in their decks. Like Horn of Greed and things like that. But with a deck like this, with the very low average CMC that you have, and the a lot of colorless pips or a lot of spells that are like 1 colored mana and then a colorless, I think this card could just give you that gas in the beginning, and it's going to allow you to pull ahead. It can allow you to pull ahead pretty quickly. So your deck is kind of built for it. And I've used this card to great success in an equipment deck where, a lot of the mana is just generic mana.
Yeah, it's a good card.
Good card.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the same realm as like a mana flare effect. Like obviously not the exact same, but in like a
it's similar. You're right.
Yeah, in a deck where you're looking to loop and abuse that kind of advantage for yourself, make it a little bit more one-sided. Yeah, it can be a strong effect.
And weird art, just that it's like looks like a because it looks like a sand, it looks like sand dunes, but then the little, I think it would be cool if it was just the little helm thing, but then it's like an outline of the rest of the person's head. I always found the art kind of unusual in that way, but anyways, it's visions. What are you gonna do? I do have one more. I think this goes in combo enablers. You guys are both being enablers. Ronin. It's Ronin War Club. You're both feeding my magic addiction. But I guess I'm doing the same thing. So it's 3 mana for an equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+1, and whenever a creature comes into play under your control, attach Ronin War Club to that creature. So very similar to, and the equip cost is 5, by the way. Very similar to Sai of the Shinobi. Again, it does cost 3 mana, so it's a little bit hefty in the CMC, and you're never going to want to pay that equip cost. That's just absurd. I don't suggest you do that. That's not why I suggested this card. I know it's crazy, but just that extra thing where if you can get a loop going, this can be your enabler.
Just imagine if it didn't have that clause with a creature entering the battlefield, like having to pay 5 to equip to get +2/+1.
I think it would be a common if it didn't have that clause. Okay, so let's move on to loopers. I do have, Riley, you do have the new 0 mana Cobalt, but there are also a few from Legends that are 0 mana. They don't have any, but they don't have any keyword abilities, and they're also 0/1s. So that's probably why you don't want to include them in the deck. It's like you included the best 0 mana creatures already. But a card that I thought was pretty good is Shield Sphere. It's 0 mana. Oh, I just can't type today. It's 0 mana for a 0/6 wall with Defender artifact creature. When it blocks, put a -0/-1 counter on it. And we did mention how you can win by one-shotting someone with an ATOG and things like that. You can make some creatures really, really big, but the fact that this can't attack, I don't think is the biggest deal, and it does have a big butt on it, and just could be a cool utility creature.
Yeah, it's got twice the toughness of Phyrexian Walker.
Yeah, but Phyrexian Walker can attack if you equip a hammer to it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I do have something for sack outlets, but again, let me see if I can find it here. I'm definitely not going to be able to spell this one. So it's Thermopod. It's 4 and a red for a 4/3 snow creature slug. You can pay a snow, and it gains haste until end of turn. That part's not important. But you can sacrifice a creature to add a red mana to your mana pool. So this would help with things like we were talking about. Where is that rascal? Fireblade Charger, helping looping that. And it is 5 mana, which isn't great. I think that's probably why you might not want to put it in the deck. It's gonna increase that average CMC, but I think that sacrifice ability is pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And it's snow, so snow is on. It's on theme. It's topical right now.
It's topical, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to finishers. Eric, take it away.
I thought the Aetherflux Reservoir would also be a nice addition here, because we are looping. Technically, we're playing those creatures from our hand again, and so that the Aetherflux Reservoir literally is like it turns on any kind of loop into also finishing off the game as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you. We know you like that card, Riley.
Yeah, it's a good card.
It's how you won.
It's a good card. I don't know. It almost seems too easy.
Yeah, fair. No, that's fair. That's fair. And these are like 4 card combos in this deck. So yeah. I get that.
But I think the combo that I want to assemble the most is I don't have infinite mana, but I can sacrifice my Arcbound Ravager to Ashnod's Altar or KCI to like slowly put +1/+1 counters on my Walking Ballista. That's the kind of combo I'm looking for.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. He's really wants to jump through hoops.
Yeah.
This guy. I have something for. I also have something for finishers. I have the much like Impact Tremors. I have OG Perforos, where
Yeah.
But again, it is it's 4 mana, I believe. Yeah, it's 4 mana for a 6/5, indestructible. It is difficult to remove. As long as your devotion to red is less than 5, it isn't a creature, so you can't equip it. That's kind of lame. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. Also, it does have this activated ability that you can sink mana into. It's 2 in a red. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So if you were creating infinite mana, you could live the, swinging with the giant creature dream with the Dwarven Hammer. So that's going to help you out with that. All right. I didn't have anything for tutors. As I said, I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
What about you?
The last thing I have is just a couple lands.
Okay, let's just skip right over recursion. Riley, that was a great category too, I got to say. Let's just get right to lands. And Eric, you kick things off.
Sure. Everything in the deck we're able to tap right away, minus if we have Fable Passage in the opening hand.
Right.
We could just run Prismatic Vista instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you just won't have that problem.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes I get at this point where I'm like, I want to build budget, but I also just want to go ham. So like sometimes
I thought
I get that too.
I thought this deck was already like on the ham side. I was like, you should just do the Prismatic Vista.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, there's also an opportunity to run off-color fetches as well, right? So
yeah. Deck thinning hashtag.
Sure.
Hey, it's a thing. So I thought, it's a 2-color deck. It's Boros. But I thought War Room might work well. The new that new land from Commander Legends, just to draw some cards.
Yep.
It taps for generic. You can pay 3 to tap it to pay life equal to the number of colors in your commander's color identity and draw a card. So pay 3 and 2 life, draw a card. But yeah, just one of those lands I've been slotting into mostly monocolor decks. I don't think I've put it into 2-color decks, but I kind of don't have a lot of 2-color decks. It's like monocolored and then like 3 and 5 color. That's sort of where that's sort of my niche. But anyways, I do have Eric, do you have another one?
Yeah, I got one left here.
Okay, you go ahead, and then I have one left. So this worked out perfectly.
Yeah, mine's also for some card draw. So Gaia Reach Sanitarium is a nice little card draw outlet. It taps for anything, but then you can pay 2 and tap it, and each player draws and then discards.
Yeah, and then everybody's happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody likes the guy that draws cards for them.
Yeah,
exactly.
Unless they have no cards in hand, then they get to see the card and throw it away.
Yes. Yeah, well, you should have built your deck better. Sorry.
Obviously, you'll want to activate this when you have like a land in hand. You're like, I don't need a 7th land right now.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it works well with recursion as well. Like if you want to pitch something and then get it back immediately. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
that as well. Yeah.
Yes, it does. My last land is Spectator Seeding. It's just the Boros Battle Bond multiplayer land from Commander Legends.
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah.
So doesn't come into play taps for the colors you want. It's probably as cheap as it's going to be right now until it gets reprinted. So grab them while you can. So you know what? I do have one more. I created a category. I do have a few more cards here. I forgot about this. So I did make up one last category. I call it Stealing the Win. And because I couldn't really find a place for these cards in the deck, and they're all pretty much the same. So they are the suite of red extra turn spells. So we have like Final Fortune, Chance for Glory, Last Chance, Warrior's Oath. So it's basically they all have the same effect where you get to take an extra turn, but at the end of that turn or at the beginning of the end step of that turn, you lose the game. So, just sometimes it's a combo deck. Sometimes you just might need an extra turn to get the combo going. You don't have quite enough mana, but you know you're going to have it next turn. So definitely don't run all of them, but it might be, it's kind of a janky combo deck, so it might be fun to, try these cards out, because it is very exciting if you cast one of these cards and you actually win the game. I used to run a couple of these in my, my Krenko Goblin deck, because sometimes I just needed that extra combat step. But now I'm thinking I could have just run extra combat cards. But anyways, I just thought these could be fun. I just thought these could be fun cards to potentially include at some point in the future.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Alrighty, well, we are going to wrap things up. Let us know what you thought about this deck in the comment section below, or you can use the link in the show notes and go over to Deckstats and give Riley some karma, because that would be nice. Get yourself a Deckstats account, start putting your decks on there. It's a lot of fun. I just keep doing it. And anyways, thank you for listening, and Riley, thanks for sharing this seemingly, I think, very fun to pilot deck with us.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, I got pretty excited when I started putting it together, so it's always a good sign.
Yeah, it's always a good sign when you build a deck for the show, or when one builds a deck for the show and they you really want to put it together in paper.
Yeah.
So we are going to be back next week to talk about Time Spiral Remastered. But until then, just take it easy, and we'll talk to you later.
Be easy. Thanks, everybody.
See you around.
All right. Bye now.
Wasteland.
Turn 1 Soul Ring.